Hello guys, my name is Bobman. Thank you for listening in. Today we're going to talk with somebody that is a member of one of the largest super capital corporations within the game currently. Please introduce yourself.
My name's Cr Turist. I am a member of Burning Napalm, or SMO, if somebody is a ticker. I'm part of NC Dot. I'm an FC. I do mostly the logistics anchoring and stuff like that, and handle most of the logistics fittings and stuff for NC Dot, and also a avid Super and Titan owner. Own a couple of them. Um, I've been playing Eve now for about 11 years.
So we have seen your name pop up a lot of times in the forum discussion about these coming changes. What are your general thoughts about these?
Overall, I think that the changes are awesome. I think that a lot of it needs refining, but I think 0-0. I mean, being a part of NC Dot and the N3 coalition, we own too much space, and I know that, and I think most of us know that. Um, and anything in Eve that's changing is good. Um, I think it's the way that the changes came were a little bit what made people upset. But I think overall, the idea behind the changes is a great one.
Okay, sweet. So where do you think that CCP went wrong with these changes?
I like the idea of the changes, and I've flown supers now for about 6 years. Back whenever they became popular, about my first next. Now I'm in Aeons because Master Race. But you know, I don't agree with the 50Y thing, and that's probably my strongest point. Is I really 50Y. I understand that they have a mark that they're trying to hit, and it's like, what is it, 3 minutes for every LY, because that's what you can do by gates. Thing. And if you even look on the forums, he made a post where he responded to my point where I was like, "Hey, why is it so short?" Um, and he even said that was their target. They wanted it to be that short, and I don't think that's it. It basically makes all these capitals and these super capitals and these titans, all these things that all these players have trained for years to have and pay extra money for accounts to have, and makes them fairly obsolete, which I think is honestly the goal. Um, Most of the people I've talked to are pretty happy about the changes from the aspect of sovereignty, because to be honest, it'll be easier to protect your sov. But at the end of the day, though, I mean, all these people have spent all this time, just for that super tune, that, just for that Titan tune. They invested so much money and, just heartache and lost marriages and stuff. It feels kind of like, something like, here, now you can jump 50Y. It's kind of like a slap in the face. And the same thing with the cooldown timer. And they have made changes since, but I mean, a 3-day cap. So you telling me I can wait 3 days before I can jump again? Like, I think they need to set it to a solid time of like 10 minutes. Make it the same as a Sino, and that right there will mostly fix most of your problems. I mean, you got to figure. I was at Asakai in my super. I was at BTAC-R in my Titan, and yes, it got out. You know, but most of those people, most of those jumps were more than 4 jumps. Now, granted, BTAC-R was not, but that happened in one of our staging systems. Asakai, God, that was like 7 jumps. That means we would have to wait 70 minutes to get to it. And I personally, I feel that that's plenty of time. But CCP doesn't agree, so.
So CCP is saying that with the upcoming patch, Eve will become bigger again. What are your thoughts about that?
I love that anytime that Eve can be bigger and there's new places, like it's somewhere harder to get to, that's always fun. I mean, I played the game before there were jump drives and everything like that, and that was always great. But I think the problem is you're taking the horse back to the stables after he's been, seen the prairie. I mean, I don't agree with the yes, but at the same time, I think that it's kind of a disillusioned idea. Like, it's not going to be exactly what they think it is. We all know each other. Eve's an evolving game, and I don't think that I understand the idea, but I don't think it's going to work.
What do you think? is there any ship or any concepts that are currently used within the game that are going to be hit the most and likely are going to be changed in the future?
People think that it's gonna kill slow cat fleets and carrier fleets. Mate, they're just gonna use gates.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're gonna improve, but is there
you're gonna have roaming. I mean, it's not gonna kill them. If anything, it makes them a little stronger. Overall, if you look at like, I think you're gonna see a large exodus from 0-0. Why would anybody would live in Stain after this? I have zero idea. Good luck filling your towers. All these outer rim areas that don't have an immediate access to high sec. And I know the idea is to get them to do industry, blah blah blah. But I think CCP has this idea that everybody in Eve has all their time in the world to play Eve. And I agree that it needs to be hard and you need to be able to, but there also needs to be a little convenience in the game.
So in previous conversations, you pointed out to me how hard Titans will be affected by these changes. CCP has given some fun stuff to the Titans, like DDing and low sec, but they also removed the tracking bonus that they had previously. Do you think that CCP is maybe going a bit too far on changing the Titans to become maybe a bit worthless to keep plexed?
As a Titan pilot myself, I can tell you that it definitely hurts. Who wants to be bridged 5LY? It's not really practical. Most of the Titan pilots that I know are definitely upset. However, this does open up with the changes to the clone vase, or with the death cloning. That this really does open up some changes that are for Titans, different uses as far as deployments and things like of that nature. Strategic points in your weak spots and stuff like that. They're definitely going to be more useful now in that aspect. But I had a carrier before that did that. Like, and I think that's the gripe of most of these guys is, before we're trading one for another now. Like, CCP definitely needs to look at some of I understand that it needs to be changed and I want them to change something, but you're alienating a large group of people. I know that if Smell itself, they did the math yesterday, if Smell itself, if we disabled all of our Super and Titan accounts, it'd be somewhere in the neighborhood of $25,000 a month for CCP. We're still paying customers and we still want something, I'm not going to keep my Titan subbed if it's not going to be useful, and I am definitely on the side that wishes they would do something, give us a little bit of a carrot.
All right.
I understand that the changes need to happen. I've said that 1,000 times now, but at the same point, you cannot alienate a rather large portion of your population. I mean, there's even the Care Bears up at 0-0, that are out running incursions. Half those guys are running incursions so they can buy fuel for their Titan. I mean, I understand that a lot of people are really happy and excited about this, but honestly I think half the people that are really happy and excited have never stepped foot in 0-0. So
you're saying that CCP maybe doesn't have the right idea of their own game. Normally this is where sort of the CSM comes in, but the rumor is that they weren't consulted about these changes and weren't involved. How do you feel about this?
I feel I've spoken to a couple of former CSM guys, and from what I understand, this is pretty common behavior. It's really heartbreaking. They made the CSM and they had great intentions for it, and now it seems to me that it's not being used to its full potential. You have a great group of guys up there in the CSM that have a lot of good ideas. There's even some of the newer guys like Core Blood Brothers. I mean, guys like him, those guys have some awesome ideas for sovereignty and for ways that the directions Eve should be going. And I don't think they're getting consulted in the ways that they should. I think the main, something this big and them finding out 24 hours prior. I mean, that's not what they're there for. That's not why they send them to Iceland every year. They need to fix. They need to fix it at home first. They need to sit back and think like, why do we have these people if they're not going to use them?
Yeah.
They seem kind of like a puppet show. I think the worst. And by all means, I'm not taking anything away from the CSM members themselves. I just feel that CCP is not using them to their full extent.
Okay.
It's really awkward how nowadays the CCP has gone from going at things with a knife. They just, it's kind of like they're making spaghetti. They're taking it and they're just taking noodles and flinging them at the fridge, hoping that they'll stick. And by the time they get one to stick, all their damn spaghetti's on the floor, so they have to make some more. And that seems how we need to be going at things nowadays instead of sitting down, talking to the CSM, reading the forums, asking its players. Instead, it's just like, I've got an idea. And, I mean, yeah, that'll work, but it doesn't, you're not going to appease all these people.
Do you think that your type of playstyle is not being represented by the CSM?
I think there are plenty of old vet PvPers there right now. I think that CCP needs to give them the chance to speak. Not necessarily do they need to speak up, because I think that they are. I think they need to be given the chance to speak, and they need to be involved in these kind of decisions. And that's the main thing that really is the saddest part for me is we've gone through all these elections, and they spend so much money on these guys to fly to Iceland and interact with them, and they say, oh, look at this, these guys are helping with these changes and they approve, and then you find out the next day that these guys had no idea that it was coming. I mean, Fozzie knows better, and he should have definitely been a little bit more specific on, if he was going to comment on it, he should have been more specific. But I think CCP definitely needs to listen to their CSM. They definitely need to listen to their player base and not just come up with harebrained ideas. I don't know where they came up with these changes. But
in the past, CCP openly stated on presentations at FanFest even that EVE is hard and that it should not be a game for everybody to play. Players have been saying that recently they kind of have stepped down from that mentality and went to a more everybody is welcome thing. How do you feel about that, and do you think this is potentially bad for the game?
The bitter old vet side of me says absolutely, why aren't you being elite? And I'm not saying that I am, because I'm horrible, but on the other hand, I understand that they're a business and they're in it to make money, and a lot of players will gripe, moan, and complain, but when you get them on TeamSpeak, they understand. But there's some things that, by no means am I saying that, especially in this topic, these changes are going too far. I mean, yeah, they hurt. I'm in one of if not the most super cap heavy corporations in EVE, and this hurts. But I understand that they need to. They have to make their money too, and getting new players and new content is what they need to be doing.
Interesting. So a member of the same corporation that you're a part of has posted in the Cell forums a thread in which he says he's going to sell all of his assets because he is displeased with these announced changes. People like Makalu and other 0.0 pilots have stated the same, that they will quit the game if these changes happen within EVE. What would you have to say to these people, and how do you feel about that?
Well, my opinion is I understand, like, the person you're talking about is Drunken One, and he's a pretty well-known guy in EVE. I believe the post said he was going to sell, he wanted to sell his 4 Revenants, somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 Titans, and then a myriad of supers, a bunch of supers. And I think he means it. I think there's not going to be a need for a large, someone to have large amounts of supers anymore. Like, why would I keep my super subbed when all I'm going to be using it for is defense of my own stuff? I mean, I'll keep a Plex on it, but I mean, what's the point? You know, and I think that's where a lot of players are at right now is why should I keep my Titan subbed? Why should I keep my Super subbed? Um, why should I keep that Dreadnought alt that only flies a Dreadnought subbed? You know, and I think it's one of the problems CCP needs to address is they seem to be alienating a big group of people. Like I understand that the things need some tweaking, but I think they could go at it a little bit better way. At least if you're going to take something away, provide some content. You know, if you're going to hit us that hard, you know, provide something else for us. Yeah, gates, that's cool, but I mean, maybe some other ideas need to be popped around, and you know. But then again, at the same time, you know, my foot could be going in my mouth where in the next changes because CCP goes with these. What's it? Once a month they come out with a patch thing now. You know, maybe in the next patch, the next expansion they've got, it'll be amazing and supers will be OP again. Like, you know, Titans will be the greatest thing on earth, but I doubt it.
If there was one thing you could say that would make the EVE players that share your feelings happy again, what would this?
It would be to make it to make the jump range to 7.5 instead of 5. Don't penalize people for using Titans with the cooldown timers. Actually, I get rid of the cooldown timer and make it a 10-minute solid for super capitals and capitals on their jumps. And yeah, I think that the stuff, the death cloning, as much as it sucks and as much as I hate to say this, and everybody's going to probably flambe me in my corp for saying this, I really hate that they do it because of my convenience, not because it's not good for the game. You know, they do need to do something with death clones. But, you know, and I understand that the jump ranges need to get nerfed and the mobility needs to get nerfed. So I think a fair median in that is going to be 7.5 and a 10-minute cooldown. Even if you want to use your fatigue system, then use it to you know, allow someone to move, you know, 4 or 5 jumps. And, you know, they can get to the fight. Are they going to be able to get back? And I think that would create some amazing content. You know, supers will log in. Shouldn't have been logging in. You get tackles, you get super kills. Everybody loves super kills. So, as I said, I like the changes. I don't necessarily like the distances. I may not like the cooldown timers, but I like the changes. So.
Alright, thank you for giving us a little insight about your forum post and kind of your view as that type of player that will be affected by these changes.
No problem, man.
Next up, we're going to talk with Core Blood Brothers, one of the current CSM, and we're going to talk about what he as a CSM thinks about these changes.